Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing 3 ways to use press plates, and I am featuring some brand new products from Altenew that are just now released today. They are so gorgeous and I can't wait to share them with you. Here's a look at a few of the products that I have on hand that I'll be creating with this month. First up is the new One Go Solid Sentiment Strips 2 press plate. Boy, that's a mouthful. And you can see that there are 12 sentiments on this press plate. It is a one-piece press plate, so you can press all 12 sentiments at the same time and then die cut them all. Now, this was designed to go with the previously released One Go Solid Sentiments die set. And there is another One Go Solid Sentiment Strips 1 press plate that you can get, but the second press plate really focuses on celebrations, congratulations, and things of that nature. Next up is the Delicate Magnolia layering die set. This is a new keyhole die set, and you're going to love the beautiful florals that this creates. I'm going to show you how to assemble this floral a little later on, but keep in mind, if you get lost, there is always a guide on the back of these layering die sets. Next up is the Parchment Bouquet layering die set. You can use all of these dies on their own or to create this really beautiful bouquet. I love that they've included a little bow in there. And once again, you have your layering guide on the back of this die packaging. So be sure to hold on to that so you know how everything kind of assembles together. Now, I won't be using this last product in today's video tutorial, but I thought it was too beautiful to not share. This is the Stampin' Paint One Happy Bouquet stamp set. It has this gorgeous, beautiful floral arrangement as well as some sentiments and some inspiration on the back. Now, the first way we're going to use our press plate is to do some hot foiling, and I have my Glimmer hot foil system. I also have some hot foil rolls from Altenew. I'll be using the champagne and the black foil colors today. Now, I'm starting out by turning on my Glimmer hot foil system, and you'll see that the red indicator light is on. And then I'm going to position my press plate with the design side facing up onto the Glimmer hot foil platform. While that's heating up, I'm going to trim down a couple pieces of foil so that I can create several sentiments at once and have them ready for future cards. I'm going to be using the black and champagne foils today, so you can see I'm just grabbing my scissors and trimming down pieces. Now, I know my hot foil platform is ready when that second light is solid green, and so I'm going to go ahead and hit that timer button. Once the timer has run through its entire course, that timer button will become solid. At that point, I can remove the platform from the base and take it over to my die cutting machine. I'm placing my hot foil with the pretty side facing the design of the press plate, and then I'm adding my white cardstock on top of that, and then I'll add the 2 shims that come with the Glimmer hot foil system, and I'll run this through my die cutting machine. This is going to press that foil onto the paper, and the heat is going to cause it to transfer. So you can see here as I remove and I do the peel and reveal of the foil, I have 12 beautifully foiled sentiments in this champagne foil. I absolutely love foiling. It is one of my favorite techniques in card making. And I love that the press plates are so versatile because you can use these for foiling or for better press, which I'm going to show you here in just a moment. Now, I went ahead and allowed my platform to reheat. I pressed the timer button again, and once that finished, I'm going to remove the platform from the base again, and I'm going to place my black foil face down onto my press plate. Then I'm using my white cardstock as well as my 2 shims that come with the Glimmer hot foil system, and I'm going to run that through my die cut machine again. These solid sentiment strips are so great to have on hand. They can be combined with die cut sentiments or other stamps. And it's great to just kind of, while you have all the things out, just foil a couple of sheets of these and have them ready to go. I like to do them in a couple of different colors so I have some options. You can see I have beautiful results with this press plate. Now, once I'm done with the foiling, I'm going to move over to the better press. So we had foiling as one option, and now we're going to use this press plate with the better press system to create a faux letterpress design. So I'm placing it onto the better press platform, again, with the design facing up. I also have a piece of tape across the bottom of that magnetic mat that's in the Better Press platform so that it stays in place so that when I run this through multiple times, that magnetic platform won't shift. I'm positioning a piece of watercolor cardstock within the A2 guidelines on the platen, which is the clear plate of the Better Press system. And now I am going to ink up my press plate using some fuchsia fresh dye ink. Now you'll find that when you're inking this up for the first time, a good kind of swirling motion with your felt ink pads will kind of coat this really nicely. Now you can do this as a press plate onto a watercolor cardstock, which is going to kind of create some more dimension, or you can also stamp this onto some standard cardstock. You're not going to get that pressed effect like you would with a watercolor cardstock, but that's definitely an option, and I'm doing that with one of the background press plates later on in this video. So once I have this press plate inked up, I'm going to place the platen onto the magnetic feet of the platform and take this over to my die cutting machine, and I'm going to run this through. And this gives me that Better Press effect for all 12 of these sentiments at once. Now, here's the kicker. You can leave it like this, or you can do what we're going to do right now, and you can kind of create an ombre effect. So we've created some foiled sentiments, we've created some pressed sentiments, but now the third way we're going to use this press plate is to create some multicolored or ombre sentiments. Now I started out with the magenta ink and an ink blending brush, and I started to add the ink onto the edge of these sentiment strips using the blending brush. And I decided that this was probably going to take quite a bit of time, and it was probably not going to give me the intensity of the ink that I wanted. So here I'm going to switch over to using the actual ink pad, and I'm going to tap some ink onto the edges of these sentiment strips. So you can see I'm just tapping at the edge of all of these sentiment strips. And once I have that ink tapped onto the edge, I will go back with the blending brush and kind of tap over those harsh edges to kind of soften that effect so that we're not having like this harsh line of ink between the two colors. This will help the colors kind of blend into each other. So you can see I'm just taking that mini blending brush from Altenew and just tapping out the edge of the ink, kind of blurring that line a little bit. Now, in a previous video tutorial, I also showed how you could create a faux watercolor effect with your press plates. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for a sentiment press plate like we have here, but it's definitely an option, and I'll throw a card up for that video here on YouTube. So now I'm placing the platen back onto the platform of the Better Press system, or the chase as they call it, and I'm running that through again, and you can see now I have a two-tone or ombre effect on these sentiment strips. To clean your press plates, you can use a baby wipe, or the manufacturers of press plates recommend that you use archival ink cleaner to clean them. They will stain, but don't worry, it does not affect their performance with either foiling or Better Press in the future. Now I'm taking the coordinating die and I'm lining that up. You can see how all of it is centered perfectly in the openings of the die. And then I'll run this through my die cut machine with that long edge first. So it's going to go through my die cutting machine. So as this pushes, it's going to push down the length of most of those die cut sentiments and keep anything from kind of stretching out. The magnetic mat of the Anagriff and Empress will kind of stretch as you push it through the die cutting machine. So on one piece die cuts like this, I like to run it through with that long edge first. You can see also that this press plate creates a bleed. So if you don't get your die lined up just right, you will still have edge to edge color. Now here's a look at that champagne strip, and then of course the ombre strips as well. So now that I have 36 sentiments ready to go, we can start working on a card project. I've taken several of the dies from the Parchment Bouquet die set, and I've die cut several of them from just plain white cardstock because then I can create my own custom colored dies. I've also used some mocha and some olive cardstocks from Altenew to die cut a couple of the other pieces, but most of these are going to be ink blended. So I'm going to start out with the orange sorbet, and because I don't know where this ink blending brush has been, I'm going to clean it off on a microfiber cloth before I get started. Now, I felt like this was a little too small, so I switched over to the mini ink blending brush instead, And I am going through and applying this orange sorbet ink, which is, by the way, my new favorite fresh dye ink color, over the petals of these florals. I'm not quite going to the edge. I'm just covering most of them. Then I'm going to come in with that micro blending brush, and I'm going to add the apricot frost to the centers, and then I'll go over just lightly over that kind of blend there to kind of meld everything back together with the orange sorbet. I also have the yellow ochre, and I'm blending the centers of the florals and this other stem of florals with that. And for this bunch of smaller florals, I'm using magenta and fuchsia on those pieces. I love the way cardstock looks when you blend color onto white cardstock for die cuts. I think it's absolutely beautiful, but if you use colored cardstock, you can also do some ink blending to add a little bit of shading to that as well, as I've done with the greenery here. These florals in the Parchment Bouquet die system are designed with the keyhole system, and that is unique to Altenew. The keyhole system creates these openings in the centers of the die cuts that you can line up to create perfectly stacked florals and other images. So you can see on this particular die cut or this particular floral, the opening in the center is this triangle. And all you do is line up the layers of the die cut where all of the triangles in the center are lined up together. So you can see I have number 1, number 2, and finally number 3, where I'm just lining up the triangles in the centers of these die cuts, and that creates the perfectly positioned and layered floral. The packaging, or the back of the packaging, will also provide you with a guide. So if you get lost along the way, which one do I layer next? You can kind of refer to the back of that packaging. Now, after pieces 1, 2, and 3, I'm going to add the center. And then finally, there's this smaller petal, which adds a little bit of dimension and kind of covers the center of that floral just a little bit. And I'm going to add that on with a little bit of liquid glue. I like to use liquid glue for these keyhole layering dies. I just find that it gives me kind of the grace that I need to move things into the perfect position. And I like to have a pair of tweezers or even like the perfect picker tool on hand to help me pick up and position my die cuts. Once everything's kind of stacked up, then I like to take and just curl up some of the petals of these florals. This will give it a little more dimension, so if you don't want a ton of dimension on your card because you're planning on mailing it, you can definitely skip this step. But I find that it brings these layered floral die cuts to life. It just is such a special touch. Now I'm going to quickly show you how to assemble the second die cut flower from this Parchment Bouquet. You're going to see this keyhole system at work again, but this time it's an arrow instead of a triangle. So again, I'm just adding liquid glue around the keyhole opening and making sure that all of those arrows are lined up. I'm following the guide on the packaging to make sure that I get them in the right order, but they are also numbered on the die cuts themselves. There is a little impress number, so it's really hard to get lost on the assembly of these florals. Now I have that Parchment Bouquet wrap, and I'm adding a little bit of ink blending to the backside to give it a little dimension and depth, and then I'm going to start arranging some of these floral pieces. Once I have an arrangement that I'm happy with, I'm going to use some liquid glue to adhere these pieces inside of the parchment wrap. Now I have to mention that before I am adding the sides of the parchment wrap, I'm adding the greenery and the florals to the center of this. And I just find that this works a little bit better. Rather than trying to add these sides on before you add your florals, I would add your floral stems first and then add the sides. So you can see I'm adding the right side first and then the left side. Again, there is a guide on the packaging that shows you how to layer up all of these die cuts to make them come together perfectly. I decided I wanted a little extra dimension on those sides, so I die cut 2 more pieces for each side, and now I'm going back and forth from right to left and adding these additional layers. I didn't want to add all of the right side and then all of the left side because it would create too much difference in the dimension between the layers, so in order to make them lay a little bit flatter, I did right, left, right, left, right, left. Now I can add my beautiful florals to the center using some foam adhesive. And then I went back and die cut a few more pieces of greenery from the olive cardstock and also from some vellum. And I trimmed them down and I'm just tucking them into my bouquet using a little bit of liquid glue. And here is a look at my final bouquet. I think it is so gorgeous. I'm actually really in love with this completed floral arrangement. So instead of a die cut bow on the bottom of this parchment bouquet, which is included in the die set, I decided to tie a little bit of actual twine on the bottom. And I think that's such a fun detail as well. Now I have the Gilded Marble press plate from Altenew. I'm inking it up with Morning Frost ink, and I am pressing this onto some plain white cardstock. Now, new this month is also the Acrylic Marker Set 2 from Altenew. These are acrylic marker pens. I love that they are just in this beautiful, nice carrying case. They have a little guard that keeps them all in place in the case. There is a black and a white in this, so it's perfect for creating some faux splatter, which is exactly what I'm going to do with this white acrylic pen here. So you can see I pulled it out of the packaging. It's already primed, and I'm just using the tip of this acrylic pen to create some faux white splatter on my bouquet, but I have all the control in the world. So I trimmed down the background that I created, and I'm adding my bouquet with a little bit of foam adhesive. I will also add my beautifully foiled sentiment there on the side. Isn't this the most perfect wedding card? I felt like it needed a little more metallic shine though, so I am taking a Zig 2A glue pen. This is a pen that dries kind of tacky when it dries. And so I'm just taking it and running it along the edge of my card front. And then I'm taking my leftover hot foil that I used to make these foiled sentiments, and I'm pressing it onto that dried glue, which is now tacky. That's going to give me the slightest, most delicate gold detail on the edge of this card front. And I think it's the perfect little addition to kind of just make it shine a little bit more. Now I finished off this card by adding it onto a Morning Frost card base with some foam adhesive, and I did scatter some pearls into that bouquet as well and onto my card front, and I think this is a perfect wedding card for wedding season. Now we're going to move into the Delicate Magnolia. Now, a lot of these steps are exactly the same. I've die cut all of these florals from white cardstock, and I'm blending using the same colors that I did before, and I'm going to assemble them using the keyhole system that's in place. This creates a little bit larger of a floral than those that are in the Parchment bouquet set. So these work a little bit better as kind of a standalone element on your card, and I'm going to use 3 of these together on this next card project. I'm not going to show you the assembly of all 3 because it's all the same, but it creates a really beautiful floral image. Again, I'm going to curl up some of the petals and then curl some of them back, giving it a lot of dimension. And these are going to sit up really nicely on the finished card project. For this next card, I assembled 3 of these florals, and I used the Modern Leaf background press plate and pressed that in some Morning Frost ink again onto some white cardstock. And this time I used the black foiled sentiments on this, another beautiful wedding card. You can see I tucked some greenery that I die cut from some vellum in behind these florals, and I added some pearls to that as well. Now there is a bonus card here in this group of projects. You can see I used those ombre sentiments again in that lower right-hand card, but you can see I've created some really beautiful celebratory cards that are perfect for wedding, bridal shower, and baby season using these new products from Altenew. I think the Parchment Bouquet would have to be my favorite, but you can let me know in the comments below which of these 3 cards is your favorite. The final card features those ombre better pressed sentiments along with that delicate Magnolia die cut that is in the fuchsia and magenta colors instead. It's a little more modern, not quite as soft as the others. Now, I wanted to tell you that this video is a part of a video hop that's happening today celebrating this brand new April 2025 release from Altenew. So be sure to check the YouTube description below for all the details for entering to win the giveaway, as well as your next stop along this video hop because there's so much inspiration. As always, I will have links to the featured products used in these projects in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, you can check there, or you can head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. I'll have that linked below as well. Over there, there'll be more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies. As always, I want to say thanks so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed these projects. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here so you don't miss any of my paper crafting and card making video tutorials, as well as my weekly Carissa Crafts live stream broadcasts. We craft, we chat, I answer your questions, and we have such a good time, and I hope you'll join me there. Thanks again for watching. I'm so glad you're here, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the very end. You know, if you've made it this far, you are one of my favorites. To subscribe to my channel, go ahead and click the button on the left side of the screen. And here's a couple more video tutorials I thought you might enjoy.